This issue starts off with the X-Men. They had just finished in the last episode, brutal fighting with Proteus. That was a really good storyline. Everyone is saying their goodbyes. Banshee decides to stay in London with Moira McTaggart because Proteus was her son, and her husband, they had both just been killed off basically. So he's kind of gonna stay with her. And judging by the artwork here, it looks like they might become a future item down the road. We're also talking to Multiple Man right here, and he's kind of gonna stay behind as well. He's not really interested in joining the X-Men. So it looks like we're gonna start a new arc with a new X-Men team. Here we have Mastermind. He's still seducing Jean Grey with his powers, making her see not the reality. She's seeing something else. So she thinks they're stuck in the past and the olden days, and she's so in love with Mastermind and they're dating. So he's messing with her mind, really just like seducing her. And she has a psyche ability, so technically she could fight this off, but she just doesn't know how to wield her powers yet. See Cyclops appear in her dream, and she's kind of snapping back into reality. So I like what the artist did here. We see how Cyclops looks in the past, and then as she's waking up to the real world, how he normally is in his X-Men costume. So he's kind of worried about Jean Grey. She knows something's messing with her mind. We have a real powerful scene with Cyclops and Professor Xavier. You gotta remember, Professor X had been gone for a long time. So he's barely getting introduced to this new X-Men team, and he's treating them like the old team. Cyclops has been with this team for a while, so he kind of knows them and they're used to him being the leader. Professor X is this new person they just met, and now he's bossing them around. And Cyclops tells them, look, these are grown-ups. They're not teenagers like Beast and Angel and Jean Grey. This is a new team with new personalities, and they're adults. They won't be told what to do or how to act as easily as teenagers will. And that really bothers Professor X. You can see the look on his face here. He did not enjoy that. But I thought it was nice that they had this scene to kind of point that out, that hey, these X-Men can't just show up and you keep talking to them like the old ones, not molding them. They're already set in certain ways, so you kind of got to work around that. Now we see Mastermind is kind of keeping an eye on the X-Men because they bugged the Blackbird and the mansion itself. And now we're introduced to more of Mastermind's friends, a whole new group called the Hellfire Club, and they're quite formidable foes. By the later on in the X-Men mythos, they're like one of the top villain teams. And here he says, "What's your next move, Shaw?" So he answers, Mastermind answers to somebody else, and you see them in the shadows right here. Here you see Shaw say, "We'll contact those mutants just as Xavier plans. Only the Hellfire Club will get there first and recruit them." Mind lets Shaw know, because Shaw's like, he's a little bit cocky, so we're immediately kind of building his personality. But if you think the X-Men are going to be pushovers, think again. Far better men have pledged their destruction, yet the X-Men are still here. So Shaw says, "So are we, Wingard." And then in the next panel, we get introduced to White Queen for the first time. She's clearly dressed like a bad girl, right? Like she's very scandalous right here. And she's meant to be real hot and stuff like that. And her powers are also a psyche ability, think like Jean Grey. Same powers, except this is a villain, like a bad girl, and Jean Grey is a good girl. We get introduced to another character named Catherine Pride, or aka Kitty Pryde. She's a younger character, she's like 12, 13, and she's barely starting to figure out her mutant powers. So she knows she's not a normal human. She's walking into the room right here. We see the parents talking to White Queen. So White Queen is going to try to get her to join the Hellfire Club, because they're going to start trying to recruit every new mutant before Professor X does, because they're kind of building their own squad. You see Kitty Pryde, just like she's falling asleep on her bed or stressing out. She takes a deep breath, and in doing so, she phases through her upstairs room and falls downstairs in the living room. So we know she has phasing abilities. that she uses when she holds her breath. So now we know what her superpower is and that she's a mutant. So she goes running right back upstairs, and immediately there's a lack of trust towards White Queen. As White Queen leaves, we see the X-Men showing up to the same house to try to recruit Kitty Pryde themselves. She sees it's another group. She already kind of does not trust them, but she sees Storm here, and she likes the way Storm speaks, very like professional, and she's tall, very attractive, and stuff like that. So Kitty Pryde kind of looks up to her. She's like, oh, she's so cool, you know, like kind of looks like a model. And she kind of starts talking to Storm about like, you know, we have like black kids at my school, but none with white hair like yours, because she has like silver hair and blue eyes. So she's different, and it kind of stands out to Kitty Pryde, and she finds her very interesting, not just because of her personality, but also her appearance. Storm and Kitty Pryde are talking in this like restaurant. A bunch of guys in like robot suits show up, and all hell breaks loose. It wouldn't be an X-Men comic if a showdown didn't pop, right? So they're going at it, and we're not sure who these guys are, but I'm led to believe Hellfire Club probably send them. Sure enough, here shows up White Queen. She's right here, so immediately we see her as a viable threat, and they're strategic. They got the X-Men off guard, which seemed to happen a lot in the early comics. They were always like at the mall or eating somewhere or at the theater, and boom, villains would show up. That's the good thing about the X-Men comics, is like they're out living their lives as well. They're not always just fighting crime. Like we get to know the characters, what they do outside of work. And here we see these Hellfire Club henchmen. They wear these blue suits, so we're developing this new group that's gonna be one of the X-Men rivals. That's the end of the first issue, and it's a hell of an ending because we see all the X-Men laid out right here and in a bad situation. But since Kitty Pryde's powers is to phase through walls and make herself kind of invisible, she got away. So she's put in a situation where she could kind of be the hero. Next issue, 130, starts off with Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Nightcrawler. They're getting off their car here as they're parking, and they're going to this nightclub, and it says Dazzler right there in these neon lights. So she's a pop star, being Taylor Swift. So she sees Scott and Jean walking up these stairs, and the place just looks shady to me. And they're looking to like where the dance floor is, and before the dance floor you see like a bar right there. People just lounging. It's almost like a rave. I mean, we all know what a concert is, right? We finally get our first look at Sebastian Shaw, and he's talking with Jason Wingard. So they're like starting off the Hellfire Club with them two and White Queen. Now, not only do they have the X-Men all trapped and in cages, but they're also keeping an eye on Jean Grey and Cyclops, who they have not captured yet, but they're following them because they know they're gonna go meet Dazzler, another mutant. So they wanna get to that mutant before the X-Men do, so they could recruit her to the Hellfire Club, much like they tried to do with Kitty Pryde, but they failed. Here we really give this new character, Kitty Pryde, a chance to look heroic, because since she can phase in and out through walls, she goes right here where the X-Men are trapped, and she gives Storm a key. And she's spotted by the Hellfire Club, so she phases through the wall, kind of gets away. Meanwhile, back at the club, we got Wingard again playing mind games with Jean Grey. So we see what she's seen. She's seen Wingard, and she's like getting married to him. That's in her psyche. But in the real world, she's still at the club, and she's just making out with him in front of Cyclops. But in the fantasy world, she's making out with him because they're getting married, and that makes it official. And she does not see Cyclops. She sees Sebastian Shaw. So Cyclops is shocked, like, what is going on here? Why is she doing this right in front of me? He doesn't really have time to react because we see the character of Dazzler. And that's why they're really here, is to meet Dazzler. Again, the Hellfire Club goons show up to this rave. The guys in the robot suits. So the X-Men are fighting them off, and Dazzler sides with the X-Men. So she's fighting these robots as well. So now she's kind of has like a alliance with the X-Men, and they're letting her know we also have mutant powers, and maybe it's safer for you to roll with us. Meanwhile, we get back to Kitty Pryde. She's still running away from the Hellfire Club after doing the whole key exchange with Storm. So she's like right here running for her life. Really like the art here with John Byrne, and it's Terry Austin on inks. But on this particular page, I really like the coloring on it. It made it look kind of different, kind of like grainy and stuff. And so that helped give it like a more grittier look, which really helps out this panel because she is running through a alleyway right here. As Kitty Pryde is running to this alleyway, she trips and falls, and this looks awesome here. We see Jean Grey show up. Boom! She just manhandles this car from the Hellfire Club that was chasing after Kitty Pryde, and we see her really getting more aggressive with her superpowers. She tells the Hellfire goons, "I trust you'll think twice about hounding mutants in the future." I've never felt better, Cyclops. This is what she's saying. So like, wow, this sounds like a crazy person, right? Like a vigilante. And here we have Cyclops responding to her saying, "What have you done? I told you to stop that car, not to turn it into instant junk." So again, we see a big change in her. Like this Phoenix Force is making her more angry. Kitty Pryde is obviously scared, and she's hiding here in some basement as she was running away. And she sees Jean Grey, and you gotta remember, this is like a 12, 13-year-old kid. She has mutant powers, but she's not used to this kind of stuff happening around her. She's not like an X-Men yet. And, you know, she's terrified right here. She's a kid, and Jean Grey's kind of consoling her, letting her know it's safe now. Cyclops, Dazzler, Jean Grey, Nightcrawler, and Kitty Pryde are all safe now, and they're coming up with a plan to save the rest of the X-Men. Because Kitty Pryde lets them know, hey, I know where they're keeping them. So now, when they strategize a plan, you see Kitty Pryde here sneaking in because she can phase through walls. And she's like, "Oh, Cyclops, gave me an important mission. I don't want to let him down because I want to impress these X-Men now." The X-Men going guns blazing into the Hellfire's facility here. Awesome fight scenes here with the Hellfire goons. And you see Jean Grey's face again. It's turning real dark and real vicious. They're even drawing her different to let you know she's going through a change. She's no longer Jean Grey, or she's turning into Dark Phoenix. And that's expected. White Queen and Jean Grey have this awesome fight scene because we knew they both had the same psyche ability, the telekinesis. So they're going at it right here, a war of minds, if you will. Jean Grey was obviously going to win that battle because she's a more powerful mutant, but also she now has the power of the Phoenix. So that's why she had changed her name from Marvel Girl to the Phoenix. But now she's slowly becoming the Dark Phoenix because she's becoming a little more evil. So they save the day, everybody's happy, and Dazzler chooses to kind of go her own way. So at this point, she would leave and then kind of have her own comic book so that we could develop this new character, right? Because it'd be too many characters in one series to give any of them enough camera time, right? After this long journey, all these fight scenes and meeting these new mutants, they decided they need to take some time off and kind of relax for a while. So Angel, he's this rich guy. So they went to go visit him in his huge mansion, and Jean Grey again, she stops, and instead of just saying hi to him, she makes out with him like right in front of Cyclops. And he's like, "What the hell is going on here?" Right? Again, she's doing this stuff. So him and Angel fly away. He's letting Angel know about this whole situation that went down with the Hellfire Club, but he's also talking about Jean Grey. Like, she's been acting real weird. It's like I'm hanging out with a different person. It's no longer her anymore. And he's thinking maybe we need some time alone. I need to figure out what's going on with her. Jean Grey and Cyclops are talking about what's going on with these changes. And she's letting Cyclops know, hey, I think it's time for a break. Like, what she means is that she thinks they should leave the X-Men, at least for a while, 3 months, whatever, take a vacation and kind of unwind, and they need like a mental break from all this stress. After that whole shenanigans is done, we go on to the next days and stuff. And here, oh man, John Byrne, he just really stepped it up with his art, in my opinion. I'm gonna show off this whole page. We have like the sunrise. We have where Cyclops and Jean Grey are on this mountain. So now we fast forward to the next day. We're in the big city, and you see everybody walking up and down. It kind of looks like New York, but like old New York from back in the days. Then we have Nightcrawler and Wolverine walking through the sewers. Okay, so they're trying to invade the Hellfire Club, but through an underground layer. And man, the art here, it looks dark, it looks gritty. They are in the sewers. I like what the coloring did here, but I also like John Byrne's art here. It just stepped it up a notch. It looks a lot different in this page than it does in the previous issues. Like you just see he's taking it to another level, meaning he's probably really into this story arc. Now you see Cyclops, Storm, Colossus, and Jean Grey. They're talking to Nightcrawler through like a phone call type thing. And Cyclops is explaining they're going to this party of the Hellfire Clubs. Now this is a bunch of snotty rich people, and they got an invitation because of Angel. Angel is also rich, and that's their way in. Here in this party, you see Mastermind again brainwashing Jean Grey. They really built this up, so I like what they did here in this story. And he's taking her upstairs, and we see how he really looks right there. He's just some tore down old guy, but in her eyes, he looks like he's this real handsome guy, right? And Cyclops is yelling here, Mastermind! And he's trying to follow him upstairs to chase Jean Grey. And boom, there's this big blast. Knocks Cyclops on his ass. And now Jean Grey is wearing this costume, much like the White Queen, but this costume is black. So she is their new Black Queen. Once this happens to Cyclops, the X-Men hear the commotion. So they run upstairs as well, and it's a cool fight scene here with Sebastian Shaw and Colossus. Now we find out Sebastian Shaw's strength is every time you hit him, as hard as you hit him, he absorbs that energy, and now he's as strong as you and can hit you just as hard. So Colossus didn't know this, and Colossus is a strong guy, so all he did is feed him Sebastian Shaw more strength, and he just manhandles Colossus here. Same time, we go back to the sewers, and the other Hellfire Club members find Wolverine and Nightcrawler, and they hand these guys their ass as well. So the Hellfire Club seems to be a better team than the X-Men, or at least they're better at strategizing. Think like a team that's well coached against a team that has a lot of superstars but no guidance. So they, that's how they outwit them basically. After Shaw is done with Colossus, he gets in another awesome fight scene with Storm. And the artwork here by John Byrne, it's really good right here. Makes the action scene look really good, but you also see the way Sebastian Shaw, when he's beating on Storm, it's like, it gives off this vibe, right? Like where he's like a woman beater, and you see her here making these facial expressions where she's like clearly in pain, and he strikes her like if she was a guy, right? So then you see her passed out right here, and he's dragging her. So we get to see what kind of person Sebastian Shaw is, and he's kind of like either a woman beater or like a sexist. And the art did a very good job of telling you that without the dialogue having to explain it to you. Why Sebastian Shaw just grabs Storm, tosses her into a pile of a bunch of other defeated X-Men. Here we have the Black Queen again, looking very cool in her new costume, and she says,
Jason, we've just won a splendid victory.
So this specific issue just ends with everybody saying, to the Hellfire Club and our new Black Queen, and they're all doing a toast, celebrating this victory over the X-Men. So we think they're all defeated. Now remember, Wolverine got tossed around in the sewers, and we just see the water in the sewers, and we see a hand come out right here. It grips onto a pipe, so we know, oh crap, Wolverine is alive. When he pulls himself out of the water, Oh, this panel here by John Byrne, it instantly became iconic because you see Wolverine turn around and you see the look of vengeance. He's coming out of the water. The issue ends here, and it just left a lasting impression for a whole month till the new issue came out. Right, like, oh my God, how did that end? Like he looked pissed off. So this story right here is kind of what made Wolverine a badass and a household name. Like, he became real popular after what we jump onto May of 1980. It's issue 133. We see Wolverine here on the cover taking out a bunch of Hellfire Club goons. Now these guys on the cover, they're the ones that were wearing those robot type of costumes in the beginning of the story arc. The issue begins with Wolverine making his way into the building, and you see him about to ambush a lot of these Hellfire Club members. After he roughs them all up, there's one left, and he looks at him. He looks at him and he's waving him in like, "Come on, buddy." And you see this guy just shaking real nervously. He's like, you can still run away with your life, right? So this guy just drops his gun and runs. And this made Wolverine look so cool right here. Like, everybody was like, wow, like he's like the coolest guy ever. We go back upstairs where we see the X-Men, Nightcrawler, Colossus, Storm, Cyclops, all tied up and trapped. And then we see the Hellfire Club just kind of looking at them. And we get introduced to the other two Hellfire Club members. To the left of Sebastian Shaw, that is Leland. He's also a mutant with the orange beard. And the guy with the blonde hair is Pierce. Now he's half cyborg, half human. Get here on the first panel, the X-Men tied up, and we see Jean Grey. And then we see what she's seen because of Mastermind. And she's looking at it like if they're like in the 18th century. And you see how all the X-Men are right there like working for her. In the next panel, we see Jean Grey, she grabs Storm and she says, "Oh, you were hiding these keys from me, slave." And we, back in these days, whenever we wanted to do something towards mutants, like to belittle them or degrade them and show that they're being treated like second-class citizens, they use Storm a lot for those situations. So they could kind of show you like, okay, we're gonna use a person of color and it could resonate more with like the real world instead of with mutants. So as she takes these keys from her, she slaps her. And here she clearly thinks she's some type of like slave owner in the past. But Storm is not her only slave, it's other X-Men. But we used her for obvious reasons, so it could kind of hit harder and it'll have more of a feel to it. And it definitely did. It felt very yucky. Get back to Wolverine, and he's sneaking into the facility here, and another one of the Hellfire Club goons catches him and he says, "Freeze, sucker," puts a gun to his head. So we're left in suspense right here, and we go back to Jean Grey, and she's seeing Cyclops and he's trying to connect with her through her psyche abilities. So when he's trying to do this, he sees that Wingard is kind of manipulating her as well, because he's called Mastermind for a reason. He can also kind of manipulate people's brains, but his power is nowhere near as strong as Jean Grey's. So once he shows up in her imagination, Wingard is there too. So this is a very famous fight scene between Cyclops and Wingard, but they're not physically fighting. They're having a battle of wills, or like a battle of just mentally, right? And since Wingard's powers are psyche powers, he has a clear advantage here. Cyclops is nowhere near as strong as him in this field, so he's struggling here to hold his own. In the real world, you see Cyclops just fall while he's shackled up still. They have him in chains and stuff, much like the rest of the X-Men. He falls because mentally he had been destroyed by Wingard. All the X-Men look at him like, what happened to him? He just fainted. Issuance there. Now we see Wolverine just storming through the doors. He just breaks them open, and all the rest of the Hellfire Club are like, oh crap, there was one X-Men left. And he almost looks like the Incredible Hulk here, just running through the wall. And even as he's running through the wall, he's fighting off like 2 or 3 other guys. Cyclops manages to get back up and remove the helmet he was wearing, and with his lasers he shoots off all the shackles from the rest of his teammates. So now we got a whole superhero fight scene here with the Hellfire Club. So they're ready for round two. This time the X-Men they're doing a little bit better. They kind of have the upper hand. Sebastian Shaw, the leader, notices this, so he kind of, as leaders tend to do, he runs for his life. In a way, he meets up with Donald Pierce. They're both getting away, and he gives Donald Pierce a speech. Here he says, "I've lost battles before, Pierce. The war goes on. We'll learn from this mistake, and next time the outcome will be different." So we get back to the rest of the group, and this scene is awesome because now that the Dark Phoenix is taking control of Jean Grey, she overpowers Mastermind's little psyche abilities that he has, because again, her psyche ability is much stronger. And here you see her in the background behind him. She's kind of laying in the shadows. It looks very, very sadistic here. And then she tells him here, she says, "Instead of enslaving me forever, you shocked me free. And now it's too late." And he says, no, I compensated for that reaction. My power should have." And she says, "Your power is nothing." And man, they made her look real dark here and real like a villain. She quickly manhandles him, like pretty simple. You see here she kind of like tears his heart out, and it turns out he's a robot himself. Oh, I take that back. He's like a cyborg. But when she rips his soul out, you see with her psychic ability, she fries his brain. You see him going through like a nasty trip. And look at him right here. We see him in his normal physical form, and she leaves him almost like not quite a vegetable, but headed in that direction where he's like mentally disabled, if you will. The X-Men saved the day once again, but Donald Pierce and Sebastian Shaw did get away. The interesting thing here is that twist we saw Jean Grey take. So the X-Men leave, and Jean Grey says, "I am again the Phoenix." Issue kind of ends there, and we don't know what's gonna happen with the Hellfire Club at this point because they didn't beat all of them. But we will end this episode here just because the video is running a bit long. So stay tuned for the next one, guys. Let me know if you read this before, what you thought about it.